hello, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Guyz. As you can tell, I'm still in Knoxville. Haven't made it back to Atlanta yet. I'll get there one day. We had some snow, so I'm kind of socked in at the moment. We are happy to announce we are still on the Bigfoot Radio Network. We are on Yerg's Radio. You can go over there and tune us in at yergsradio.com, and as well as the Rainbow Radio. And we are also on WRFN Radio Free Nashville. So we appreciate their support. Let's see who I got hiding back here. The wonderful and beautiful and talented Amanda. And we have a surprise here. Miss Cheyenne. She is back. Woo! Antlers has returned. So
hello. I feel naked. I don't like it.
No antlers.
I know.
Yeah, you're missing your antlers.
Are they in storage?
They are. And I thought I packed them with me, and I was telling Glenn until I got everything up to set up, and I was like, where are my headphones?
We'll say they're hibernating.
It's fair.
There you go.
So this is my trusty work.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah,
there you go.
My trusty work headphones. So
yeah,
they'll do for now. I'll just.
So we have a guest tonight that's right up your alley, Cheyenne. Emmett is he's the writer and he's the producer and director of a new movie called Without a Name. It's about a cult. So I know it's right up your alley. You'll definitely love it. And he's backstage, so let's bring him out. He is not from Chicago, Chris. So, well, he is from Chicago, but he's not there. So
excuse me while I sit here and kick my feet like a small child because I'm so excited.
Well, I'm in Los Angeles, but behind me you can see the beautiful Bonnie Bell Motel, which is in southern Wisconsin, and it is one of the places where we shot. So I thought I would bring some local color to the conversation.
So the crux is that a child takes his dad to a campsite that is not on the map, and then when they get there, he gets sucked in to a cult. That's pretty much the crux of it? Essentially,
okay. This young boy, he's just turned 12 years old, and he gets lured in by those an online quiz, like personality, and so they secretly to. I'm sorry, my background looks terrible. I'll turn this off.
You're fine.
There we go. All right. This is my hideous workshop, if you will. But he gets sucked in, and so he gets his dad to take him on a fishing trip. And while he's on the fishing trip, his dad goes out to get some food for them. And then the boy is actually lured into a car by some members of the cult. And of course, it's a very attractive situation because the cult sounds really fun. And that's it goes downhill from there. So happy to tell you more, but that's how it starts.
Well, we were just having this conversation about getting in vehicles with strangers, Cheyenne.
Yep.
And it was a less attractive situation, to be fair. Hey, if in 29 years that is my only time of getting in a car with a stranger, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Fair. So.
And I was the one giving him money.
Was this like a Uber, or was this?
Okay. I'm back at my parents' place because I'm in the process of moving again, and I met up with my landlord on Friday, and it was my first time meeting him. And I popped my head out of the car, and he's like, "Come on, just hop in." So I'm like, "You want me to get in the car?" Oh, okay. And he's just this big burly, tattooed, bald, biker looking guy. Nicest guys can be, but I'm just like, wow, I just got in the vehicle with a total stranger. All right.
Not recommended.
No, but it was all right. I was allowed to leave of my own volition. So
I have stories of when I was growing up. Hitchhiking was popular and not, like, I mean, it was, people thought of it as a fun, wild and crazy thing to do. And I was coming home from a concert on New Year's Eve that I went to alone. This is when I was a teenager. So it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and I should have just walked home, but I got a lift from some guy, and yeah, the conversation got really strange in that car, and by the end of it, I was basically I got out of the car at a 7-Eleven, not at my house, close enough to walk to from my house, but I just was like, I don't want this guy to know where I live. I was saying thank you, no, but thank you for asking.
appreciate it, but gonna have to pass.
Yes.
Yeah, my brother was on the news. He picked up an escaped convict, and he was
fun.
on the news for picking him up. And my mom is in tears in front of the house and everything, talking about him. Them trying to figure out where he was with this escaped convict.
Good
God.
Yeah,
Lord.
it's crazy.
Wow.
You never know. Never know.
Wow. It took a turn I didn't expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes me feel a lot better that mine was the lesser of the situation.
My brother
True.
was fine. The guy was nice and everything. He didn't try anything, and he was
At least
fine.
at least it wasn't like a Jeffrey Dahmer situation, and you were on your way
Mhm.
to the concert, and he picked you up and was like, "Yeah, you're not leaving now."
Yeah. No, the concert was great.
Those were different times. You could couch surf and do all kinds of crazy things back then that you can't do now. So you have some people in the movie that are actually, they're still learning other craft, but they're up and coming in Hollywood. One of them was even on Chicago Fire show I watched. So
Yes, that was Simon Provan, and he actually shot his Chicago Fire episode. Because he had like a 5-day commitment to us, and he signed our agreement, and then he said, "You guys, I got offered this part in Chicago Fire. I got to run down to Chicago from where we were. There was, I'm guessing it was about 100 miles away, but he said, "Can you let me out?" Because we needed him to shoot this one night, and he said, "Well, can I get out of there at 8 p.m. so that I can go home and get some sleep so that I can get to the set at 6 a.m. tomorrow?" And so we got him out, and he did his gig, and then he was back at work with us a day or two later. So, but we were all very proud of. We all saw his appearance on the show, and it was great. But
That's cool.
we have a number of one of the gentlemen in our film. He seems to be known by everyone in the entire state of Wisconsin. I don't know if that's possible, but his name is Dan Davies, and he's a very well-known local figure, actor. He has a film festival that he runs also in Green Bay or Appleton. Anyway, we had we had a film shown in his film festival where he was the host, and he was in a lot of the films that were being shown. So it was very entertaining evening. And we're hoping to have more. One of our young stars is he's been getting commercials. His name is Desi Cruz Brooks, and he's been getting commercials and local, productions, and he's got to be about 15 now, so he's got lots of time to get huge.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. How is it working with children on set? They probably are extremely difficult, I would think.
Our kids were fantastic, and I'm serious. I'm not like covering up something. No, they were. First of all, everybody.
That sounds like something somebody covering up something would say.
Yeah, really.
Sorry, had to.
No, it's good, fair point. No, it was no, everybody who was in our film, they may have submitted, sending us pictures and self tapes, but we had an in-person we had 2 in-person auditions actually, and it was very important to us to meet people for real. Like I didn't want any, because you just get a sense of a person when they're there for real, and people can present themselves in internet videos very well, and they could, you don't know that what they're saying to you, they might have practiced 5 times before you actually see it. But all of our kids were, we met them in person. We liked them. I had a chat with each one. And by the way, I just want to do a quick correction. I am the director of Without a Name, and I'm also the co-writer. And then I'm one of 3 producers.
Okay.
The other 2 gentlemen, if they're watching this, I don't want them to think I didn't correct that. But it was, anyway, we met them all in person, and everybody was a great asset, like on set. There was a lot of laughing and that kind of thing. I have kind of a secret tool, which is that I'm a former teacher, and I'm not a parent, but being a teacher never leaves you, and
No.
you have eyes in the back of your head. You just can't turn it off, and so you're talking to somebody and you're saying, I shouldn't be hearing conversation right now, things like that, or just like why aren't I the only one talking? And it was a lot of fun, because we wanted to make sure that, we were making a thriller. It was there's some scary parts to it, and frankly, we wanted to make sure that nobody went home with nightmares. And for a lot of these kids and adults, our movie was their first experience being in a movie, and we didn't want anyone to walk away, hating it.
It's funny, that sounds very similar to whenever I was watching the behind the scenes stuff from the new It movie.
Oh yeah.
Because you'd think it would be kind of rough working with kids, but I remember like Bill Skarsgård was really concerned about, because when they went to film was the first time the kids were seeing him.
Oh, wow.
And they were all like super into it, super cool kids, but then like as soon as like filming would stop, they'd be like, "No, man, like are you we're good, are you okay?" Because he was super freaked out, but like of scaring them that it was gonna like permanently affect them, and they'd be like all crazy into the scene, and then it's cut, and then they're like, "Nah, man, we're cool."
Oh, good. Yeah, well, because I was telling somebody recently that I saw a still photo that was taken behind the scenes during the making of The Shining, the Stanley Kubrick, with Jack Nicholson, and the boy in The Shining, his name was Danny Lloyd,
Mhm.
and it turns out that they were shooting the movie in the same studio where they made the Muppet Show in the 1970s. And so they one of the things they did was they took Danny over to meet the Muppets and had some wonderful behind the scenes shots for him. And they tried. I understand they tried very hard to make that whole thing, fun.
Well, and I think they kept him away from. They
The
kept
scary
him away
stuff.
from all the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So he didn't end up like
Oh, the kid in
and so he didn't
Okay.
wind up like I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but like
Margot Kidder.
no, the
Margot
woman who
Kidder.
played Wendy. The woman who played
Yeah,
Wendy.
yeah.
Because that really messed her up.
Yeah. Yeah, and her name's going to come to me in 10 minutes, and I'm going to burst it out while we're talking about something else. I'm sorry.
Who was
now I gotta
she?
Google it.
She played Wendy in The Shining. It was Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall,
Yes.
yeah, because that messed her up. But they tried to they kept him away from all the crazy stuff that was going on, so it didn't. So he didn't get all messed up from it.
What's funny, because did you ever see the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from the 1970s?
Mhm.
The guy who played Charlie,
Mhm.
whose
Isn't
name
he like
will
a
also
plumber
come to
now?
me. I thought he was a dentist.
He
I
very
think I
well
heard
might
him-
be a dentist.
Yeah.
But he
But
does something very like low-key and
Yeah.
normal.
And it's good for him, because he's probably had a wonderful, I mean, I hope that was a great experience. That movie's a little scary, but it looks like it was fun to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Although
weird.
I like
Peter Ostrom.
Ostrom. There you go.
He is a retired veterinarian.
Close.
Right.
Close.
Well, the movie paid for him to go to vet school, I'm sure. So.
Oh, I hope so. No, I mean, when someone's part of a successful movie like that, you want to make sure that they get something out of it. I mean, you hate hearing stories about people who are in a, like a Star Wars level movie and they can't get a job or something like that.
Well,
later.
and so they don't end up like the kid that played young Anakin.
Oh, Jake Lloyd. Two Lloyds.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I don't know what happened to him. So let me in on this one.
Hold on, I would have to fully look that up to be able to tell you.
I would think. I mean, some of the scenes get kind of rough, so I would think that it would mess with you some. But go ahead, Cheyenne. I'm sorry.
Well, keep talking. I gotta look it up for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes when you're watching a movie, you're like, how did this kid not get affected by making this movie?
Well, I understand that Danny Lloyd was not allowed to see The Shining at all until he was much older, which is a good thing, I would think. Although, go ahead. Sorry.
So what it turned out being was that he retired from acting in 2001 because he was being bullied so hard at school for being in the Phantom Menace, and then he started having issues with his mental health and was thinking that he was living in multiple different realities. So it really,
oh God.
He was having both visual and auditory hallucinations. Then so he retired from acting in 2001. Then in 2008 he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
then he got into a string of legal issues because of the paranoid schizophrenia, being involved with the police and everything. So it really messed with him.
That's sad.
And you do hear about a lot of child stars that later in life they're messed up or weird.
Yeah.
Or something.
Corey Feldman. I mean, gosh.
Well,
All
I
of
mean,
that.
he had a lot of stuff going on there, so you can't blame him.
No. But even the kid from Star Wars, I mean, what if it was Star Wars that caused all of that?
Oh, I hope
Well,
not. Well,
I mean, in a little bit there in the beginning, at least with his personal life, it kind of was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it sounds kind of like maybe all of that from his personal life starting off there kind of expedited
Built up to it. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you hear sometimes of actors and actresses that get so into a character that they become the character. And
Yes.
I don't know if that makes them better or worse actors, but if it's a horror movie, that could be. Ooh. Image movie really bloody. I know I've seen the trailers and there's the around the campfire and stuff like that, but I didn't think it was really bloody or anything.
if it was, if it gets a rating, I would say it would be a very soft R or a hard PG-13. There's a little bit of gore. We don't go too far with it. Partly because good gore costs a lot of money, frankly.
Yes, it does.
A lot of gooey body parts and things like that. And the thing was, our movie didn't really call for it. There is some things that are left to the imagination that are a little rough.
And that makes it both better and worse at the same time too, when it's left for you to.
Well, and I for me, I felt it was a much more elegant approach. Less fun for the gore hounds, the people who love because people. I mean, there are people that's it, that they just want to see guts and they just want to see the stabs, the killings, the whatever. And,
I want to see the blood spray across the.
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, and that's one of the things I've never been able to stomach, though, is the people who they go to a horror movie and then they laugh at it, and it's like, but I mean,
how demented are you?
I've known a few of those.
But I'm not talking about fun, like horror comedy, like Warm Bodies or something like that, where it's there's a comedic element to it, but they go see like Dawn of the Dead or something like that, and they go and I'm just thinking, this is what's happening to the people. Yeah.
If you want a good one that is both horror, gore, and comedy, there's a new one out right now that we just went and saw called Heart Eyes for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we just
I've
watched.
heard about that.
Yeah.
Recommendations. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good.
I didn't like the end. It was good till the end.
I was a little disappointed, but I think my favorite part of everything was just the in the middle of a drive-in movie. I forget what they called him to get like the killer's attention, but whoever the male actor was in that, I haven't seen him in anything else. I have to look him up. He was so funny, of just being the perfect mix of serious, stupid, and funny.
Yeah.
But he calls him an F face or something, and the camera pans over and he's just like flipping off the killer, and I was just like, I like that guy.
One of my favorite funny horror movies though was Zombievers.
Oh, I haven't heard. Oh, Zombievers. Yes, I've heard about that.
Yeah. I love Zombievers. It's hilarious.
Let's see. I felt like Heart Eyes was if you the seriousness that they pulled into some parts of it was very Cocaine Bear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
A good it was very Cocaine Bear, and it was very Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, another great one. I love Tucker and Dale.
Well, I
Is-
mean, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is that your genre, is the horrors, or do you have a diverse? Because this isn't your first rodeo.
Well, actually, no. This is the fifth film I've directed. The fifth feature film I've directed. Most of my films are comedies, and I love comedy. I'm very comfortable with that. And actually, we had to pull back from making some of our scenes, that they were kind of threatening to go into the comedy realm, and
If that's
we
your
had to,
comfortable space, it's hard not
yeah.
to be like, what would make this really funny.
But we really wanted to, we wanted to have a fear factor in it. We want, but like there's a scene where this man is looking for his son, and he goes into the sheriff's office, in this town, and the sheriff is no help whatsoever, and he's actually very strange. And at
Shocker.
one point, yeah, and at one point he says to the guy, he says, my son is missing, and the sheriff says, well, did you look in your trunk? And he says, no. Why would he be in my trunk? And he's like, I'm just trying to be helpful. And it's stuff like that. It was part of it was it was just that was actually a line that my partner wrote, and that was one of the things where I said, okay, is this too funny to be in our movie? But I'm so glad that it's in there, because it leads to another very satisfying and very funny movie a few minutes later, which I don't want to spoil, but it's, I mean, I think they can go together. You can have some comedy, you can have some, I mean, if you remember John Carpenter's The Thing,
Yes.
I don't think I don't think I'm spoiling anything when at one point there's a monster that is created from the decapitated head of a man, or it was a head that found its way off a man's body. And at one point, one of the other characters sees this head monster walking away on little spider legs, and he says, "You gotta be effing kidding me!" And I'm wondering whether that was something that they didn't just make up on the set, because the monster was funny looking, and it's like little.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still obviously extremely dangerous, but you see it crawling away, and it's a comedy moment.
Like
in the
comes
middle of
up out of the chest, then falls in it. Yeah,
It's good to have those little comic relief moments.
because you're gonna remember it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can have the most serious movie and still just have a little pop comic relief. That's good.
Well, and the
So-
audience appreciates it, I think.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because it's memorable. Even like of everything completely serious, and you have that one little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even if it's like a slight little nod to something, you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
but I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember in Top Gun, that's my first thought, Top Gun, where he goes, giving them the bird. Everybody remembers that.
It's true. Well, Emmett, I don't want you to feel left alone on the screen, because your partner is here, Griffith. So we'll bring Griffith out. Hello, Griffith.
Can you guys? I apologize. I'll tell you the crazy stuff that happened before I got here, but for some reason my Google Chrome got corrupted. I had to uninstall it, reinstall it, restart the computer, then finally the link worked.
Oh my goodness.
And that usually only happens on the nights that we have UFO guests.
I
Yeah.
know, it's crazy. But yeah, sorry I'm late, y'all. I was actually I was planning on getting here early, and then a rock got in the axle of my car, and I couldn't I couldn't break, so I had to get towed back home.
Oh my
All right.
God.
Wow.
Sorry, Emmett.
Jeez.
So
No.
it was it was a crazy thing, but
I'm
yeah,
surprised you got here after going through all that.
yeah, I know. It's it was
Jeez.
so yeah. But
You're
anyway,
like, give me 45 minutes. I need to go cry in the corner for a minute, then I'll be good.
Right.
right. No, it was just annoying because I told Emmett that I'd be on at 8 and I had every intention. Then I got here just 5 minutes after. Okay, I'm good. And then my Chrome browser just wouldn't work. So I finally got that.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Are
So
we all in different time zones?
I think so, yeah. Because
Yeah,
I'm
we're
in
Eastern.
Central.
We're all in the same one.
Okay.
Because y'all are on Eastern, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
So
I got
he's. I keep pointing this way to point it there. Griffith's in Central, and then I'm in Pacific. So
Yeah.
this
So
is a huge network going on.
Yeah.
It is.
So I need to hear more about this cult.
Yes. It's great for kids.
All
if you're a
right.
kid- yeah, no, it's you. I mean, basically, there are almost no rules. You can eat as much as you want when you want.
I'm in.
Really. All they ask is that you don't be a jerk. Like, don't be annoying to other people.
Give us all your
And,
money, but do whatever you want.
Well, and I mean, and the thing is that the downside, of course, is that the cult is very unfriendly to adults, and there's a. But
Is this-
you're a kid.
this-
And
Is this an R. Kelly cult?
Oh God. I don't think. No, there's no. We don't delve into anything.
So
like
it doesn't go that nefarious.
No, because
Okay.
that just. And I mean, that was intentional because it was my writing partner and I were talking about it, and it's like, well, how weird is this going to get? And I didn't want it to turn into a, like a sex cult or something like that. I because that wasn't the story we were trying to tell, and then it
So
becomes a whole.
of those, you've got more like the religious cult, you've got like the sex cults, you've got the death cults. What does it fall more under as far as cults go?
Have you heard of the? I guess the idea behind rain dancing.
Okay.
And what I mean is, let's say there's no rain, and your crops are dying, you're suffering, your whole village is suffering, and you say, God, help us, and nothing happens. And you say, God, if you, we'll all sing songs, and nothing happens, and then we'll cut down trees and we'll build a, fort or something, nothing happens. And then someone says, well, I'm going to do a funny dance, and then it starts raining, and then everybody in the cult says, that's it, the dance, that's what. Okay, now we know how to control God.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the origin of this cult, is that they stumbled on something that seemed to improve their luck, that seemed to
Okay.
make things better. And so they said, okay, this is the thing we're going to keep doing. This is going to work. This is working for us. And so when we meet the cult, this thing that they do has worked for them for a while. And that's been the only imposition, like you can do whatever you want, you just have to do this one thing, and then God or whoever's in charge is gonna keep giving you the good luck, and you're gonna keep having the fun.
So what is their inherent dislike of adults?
They get sick, they fall apart.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, they let's face it, the you're so much, unless you're eating, a bag of garbage every day, you tend to be a lot healthier as a kid without a lot of effort. You can be healthy as an adult, but that takes a lot more work, I think, than when you're
Fair.
young. And and it's just it's you don't get sick as often. I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but this cult is not saying everybody. They're not putting a recruiting sign or whatever. They look for people and they bring them in. Usually people
So was
passing through
this
this
like
town.
was this like where you were saying the boy had done like the personality quiz?
Yeah.
That would be one of their recruiting methods.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's also there's this very small town, and they've got a motel, and they've got a restaurant, and that kind of thing. So it's very easy to keep tabs on
So they've
whoever's
created
passing
their
through.
own little like society, so to say.
Yeah, they've got their own society, and they've got their own pipeline to get new members. And it's sinister, but it's one of those things where you go, well, we've been doing it this way for so long, it doesn't seem that sinister. I mean, I happen to have been raised Catholic, and I'm used to going into a Catholic mass and watching hundreds of people stand up at the same time, speak the same words, sit down at the same time, kneel at the same time, and to me it's perfectly normal. But I brought a friend once to an event, and we all went to the mass, and they were freaked out afterwards. They was like, how do you know all those words to say, and how do you how do you know this?
Years and years of practice.
Yeah, but if you're not in it, it freaks you out. I'm sure many. I was actually at a Jewish funeral, and there were so many prayers and so many. I actually felt terrible. I shouldn't say this, but I wanted to help, with the putting the dirt in the grave, and so I asked one of the rabbis. I said, "Is it okay?" Because people were taking turns, and I said, "Can I help with this?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "But make sure you only put in an odd number of shovelfuls, because and then you can't hand the shovel to somebody else. You have to put the shovel back into the dirt, and then the next person takes the shovel out." And I feel really bad, but I lost count of the number of shovelfuls of dirt. So I hope that I didn't do any. I don't know how grave a misstep that was, but I feel bad if that.
They'll haunt you
Anyway.
forever now. So
It was
I
an
don't know.
even number. It was an even number.
Emmett, it was you.
Well, she's the woman who passed away. She is actually one of the sweetest ladies I've ever known. Her name was Sheila Rasnick, and she has been in 2 of my films, actually. And she was in her 90s. I think she was about 93. Still very vibrant, and so Sheila, if you're listening, I'm so sorry, but you were very beloved.
She would.
You have one job.
Probably find it. She would probably find it humorous then.
Yes, I think so. She was always happy. She was. I mean, my girlfriend and I went to visit her about a year before she passed away, and Sheila was living in her own apartment, and she was, just she was very, very articulate, and although something interesting happened, because while we were at Sheila's apartment, this is the paranormal thing. While we were at Sheila's apartment, she was very proudly showing us a music box that I believe her husband had made or had given her, and she was showing it, demonstrating it, and it was very elaborate and beautiful. And then at the funeral, her granddaughter told me about a strange experience where right after Sheila passed away, in her room, it was a hospice place, but there was a music box in the room, and the music box spontaneously started playing for about 20 seconds. No explanation. No one was anywhere near it. So
How long after she passed away?
I believe it was, oh God, I wish I could remember, but I feel like, basically they were all there, like the people who were, so
like
nobody had
right
left.
after.
I feel like that's, yeah. I don't have historically accurate, information, but I just,
her little.
yeah, it was a wave goodbye.
That's cool though in a situation like that. Just her little nod to, all right, I'm out.
Well, yes, I felt very lucky to know her. And one of the things, actually, I'm sorry, forgive me if I'm going on too long, but
You're fine.
there was a couple of years ago, I was teaching a class in filmmaking at a local university, and I said to the students, "You guys want to do a talk show?" Because we were trying to do little projects like a short film, that kind of thing. And I said, "Well, let's do a multi-camera talk show." And the school was called the American Jewish University, and I said, there's this wonderful lady I know who's got an incredible story to tell about when she was growing up during the beginnings of World War II. And there's a lot more, but I just, that was kind of a jumping off place. And so we did this wonderful interview with her, and she told this story about on her 11th birthday. She was on that. She grew up in England, and she was on that Kinder transport, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was called? Where they brought the kids.
Mm-hmm.
They brought Jewish children out of London and brought them to safe homes in the country outside of England to make them safe, in case there was an invasion.
Funny story to add off that real quick. The only reason I know about that is because my last name is Kinder.
Oh.
And I had stopped at a post office and was mailing a couple things out, and the postmaster started telling me all that because he was looking at my name, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
So it was called the Kinder transport?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, she was in a before she was dispersed to the countryside, I believe. It was her 11th birthday, and she was carrying her birthday cake, into the house where she was living to celebrate her birthday, and then a bomb was dropped on the building next door.
Ooh.
And she was blown clear across the room.
Goodness.
And she survived, obviously, but everybody in the building next door were killed, and it was a very sad story.
Wow.
But she just had a lot of, there was, but she was, and that, I think that's one of the reasons why she was so joyful, because she
made it through.
She was very lucky. She appeared in a
I was just going to say, once again, that was a different type of, not just culture, but different mentality and attitude in that generation.
Mm-hmm.
Of just being really thankful for being here, making it through all that.
Yeah.
No, I try to expose myself to as much of that kind of thing as possible, partly to remind myself that, that I am very lucky. I mean, I was old. I could have been drafted. Well, I mean, I registered for the draft, for example, but we weren't doing it when I was eligible. And that was one of those, but we came close. I mean, there was a lot of questions in the 1980s about how involved we were going to get in some of those overseas conflicts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I didn't mean to bring it down here, you guys.
No.
It's good. So, very interesting story.
Yeah.
So, Griffith, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we don't want to let you feel left out here. Tell us a little bit about yourself too. So.
Well, Emmett and I met in the early 20-teens, and he had sent me some of his work, and I sent him some of my work. And the first film I saw by him was, it's now called She's Out of His Mind. And I thought it was a really brilliant comedy and really enjoyed watching it. And then I watched his Beauty, Brains, and Personality a few years later. And he really liked the films that I did. And he says, well, look, I'd like to collaborate on a film at some point. And I always thought that meant me going to LA and shooting another one of Emmett's fun comedies in LA, which I still want to do, by the way. Just want to
working on it.
Yes, I just want to throw that out there. And so Emmett, I want to say it was in 2020, late 2021, he mentioned to me a project, and he wasn't sure where we were going to do it yet. And so, and then he told me it was going to be in Wisconsin. I'm like, oh, great. Well, send me the script. So I got the script, and I'm like, yeah, this is not a comedy.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
I mean, parts of it were kind of funny, but I was like, yeah, this is which. So me, I did 3 films based on the American Gothic classic literature of Hawthorne and Edgar Allan Poe, and I shot them in here in South Louisiana and South Mississippi. And so they have a very period sort of Gothic look to them. I was very blessed to have a lot of really cool locations. Like one film we filmed that was called the Windsor Ruins. And the Windsor Ruins were it was a southern plantation estate about 3 stories high. They had these 50-foot high stone Greek columns that held it up. Well, this house burned to the ground. All that was left were these gnarly 50-foot high stone Greek columns, and you got to go through about a mile of woods to get there. And so Emmett saw those films and said, man, I really like the way I want you to shoot, this movie. And so that's kind of what got me lassoed into Without a Name, because Without a Name is really much more in line with the work that I did previously. And so I tend to be really good with on-location cinematography, especially when it comes to historic buildings, especially with historic buildings that have maybe like a supernatural history to them, because a lot of the houses we filmed in were haunted. I have a lot of fun ghost stories about that. And so yeah, looking back, Without a Name was kind of a very it was very much a step in the direction cinema wise that I'd been going for the last 10 years. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you all to film it?
Was it 15 days, Emmett?
We had we had 15 days blocked off, and it was 7 days day off, and then 7 days.
Oh yeah, so that's right. Yeah.
15 total.
Right.
But it was,
and
we
days,
every second. Were there long days, Griffith?
The only day that was long, or I should say the only day to me that was a real challenge was when we did I'm not sure how much movie y'all watched, but there's a scene where the kids are around a fire and they're dancing around the fire. And I had forgotten my wool socks. So I had my necessary uppers and thermals and everything, but I didn't have wool socks, so my feet were freezing.
Oh gosh.
And it was like, I think it got down to about 12 degrees that night, and I was having a hard time just staying on my feet, not so much because I was tired, but because I had very little feeling down there. And finally, Eric was really kind. He went and he knew where my wool sock he got him. He says, "Here, go around here." But don't tell me I did this. Sure, Eric, I appreciate it. So that was, so yeah.
Eric is one of our producers.
Yeah, and he,
Okay.
and Eric and Hayato, the other producer, those two really worked a lot of miracles, and it really allowed Emmett and I to really focus on the film, which was really awesome. I think without those two, Emmett and I would have been a lot more difficult. So they really are kind of they're two unsung heroes in the project, because we had a major production reschedule halfway through. We had to find all new locations and all new places to stay, and Emmett was kind of crushed, and Eric just kind of said, well, okay. And he and Hayato figured it all out within 24 hours, which I'd never seen that before. Usually it takes longer. So that was pretty incredible. And, that's what allowed us, Emmett and I, to really, really give this film the attention that it needed.
Yeah, the night scenes that I've seen with the fire and the colors, the vivid colory and all that. Is that a word, colory? But it was so crisp, and I thought that was good. So Go ahead. I'm sorry, Emmett.
No, I was just going to say that Eric, his full name is Eric Otto. I'm sorry, Eric Lukert. Eric Otto Lukert. And he is he lives in Milwaukee, and so he knows the area really well, and he's the main reason that we were shooting there. It was because he knew where to get things done. He knew people who would help us out with food and let us shoot in their locations, their buildings, that kind of thing. And it was just and the thing was that we lost our main locations, and then Eric found us new ones, almost instantaneously. There were a couple of buildings that we had looked at beforehand, before we started shooting, but we said, well, we have this other location that, that's easier. Well, we lost the other location that was easier. So we went back to the buildings that we got, that Eric showed us. And then Hayato just found, because we were all living at this location that it was a camp or resort, and we were living there and shooting there, and so all of a sudden we couldn't do either, and so we had to find new places to live, and new Airbnbs and motels and that kind of thing. And yeah, it was, I imagine most people would take at least a week to come up with what we needed, but Eric found it in one day. And Hayato found it in one day also.
That's awesome. Well, good PAs are great too. So yeah, good job. I'll tell you what, let's take I'll do this a little bit early. We're going to hit the button here. So everybody at WRFN, I'm used to saying another station, WRFN, thank you. The Bigfoot Radio Network, thank you. And everybody else, hang on 1 second. Thanks, everybody.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I'm Miranda Maverick, and when I'm in fight camp, I never listen to the Sport Cat podcast.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of the Paranormal Guyz. We're still chatting about the movie that Emmett and Griffith made. I can't pronounce it in Spanish. I'm sorry. Without a name.
Sin Nombre.
Nombre. Now,
Yeah.
was this a cult that
Made it up. We made it up. Yes, and actually, if I can take a moment to tell you about my co-writer.
Yes.
It was
yes, please do.
Larry Maravilla. I have been writing projects with him since 1993, and we actually wrote a number of things. We were working for George Hamilton. I don't know if you younger ladies know the who that is, but he at one time was a very well-known movie star. Anyway, George made a movie in 1979 called Love at First Bite, and it was a Dracula comedy. And so one of the things that Larry and I were hired to do was to write Love at Second Bite, which was going to be a sequel to Love at First Bite. Now, Love at Second Bite never got made, but we did it. We had a wonderful time working for George, and also Larry and I just worked very well together, and so we kept writing other projects, and then there were times and then there was a stretch there of about 10 years where we weren't working together, and then Larry reached out to me in the mid 20 teens and said, "Hey, do you want to write a horror movie?" And I said, "Yeah." So we started writing. We also actually worked a little more for George Hamilton. And I actually have some high hopes for some of the things that we wrote during that time. But basically, we wrote a number of horror and horror comedies, and Without a Name was the cheapest and least complex. Like one of our other films, which I hope to make at some point, it's a horror movie called Ficus Rex, and it's about a tree that eats people.
I love it.
Here.
Okay.
I love it.
It's really fun. There's a lot of humor in it. There's also some very scary stuff in it, and the thing is, I was gearing up. We had raised some money, and I was gearing up to direct it, and then I just took a step back, and I said, we're gonna have to have a monster that can pick people up, and do big things, and I don't have. I'm not experienced with that. I got nervous, and I said, let's not do the monster movie, the first one. Let's do something more about human monsters, and so that's why that one, But one of these days we're gonna shoot it. And there's one more thing I want to tell you about Larry. Larry passed away recently. He's about 20 years older than I am, and he was very excited about this movie Without a Name. He couldn't come to the set because he was unable to travel or anything like that. But as I was shooting the film, and then as I was editing the film, I was, staying in touch with him, and I was showing him drafts of the movie, and he would make comments on it. And of course, he was very interested in the casting. I like that guy. I like this guy, that kind of thing. So, I mean, his DNA is very deeply embedded in the movie. And in December, we had a screening of the movie in Los Angeles in a movie theater, in a commercial theater. And I brought Larry to it. And so he got to see the movie in a theater, and he said to me afterwards, he says, I've never seen my name on the screen before.
Aww.
So
That's awesome.
before he left us, he was able to see it. I wanted there to be the bigger, thing, but it made him very happy, and I just
That's good.
That's great.
want to share
I'm
that
going
with
to
people.
show my age here a little bit, but I
Uh-oh.
love George Hamilton.
Mhm.
And my favorite movie of his is Zorro the Gay Blade.
Mhm. Very funny one. Yes. Oh my God, I spilled it myself. Yes.
When he gets up and he goes, 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits of peso, all for Zorro. Stand up and say so. I lost it. I love that movie. So I'm so jealous you got to work with him. That's amazing.
Well, I will pass along, because I called him a couple of days ago to let him know that Larry passed away, and he was very sad because he and Larry met in 1968. They were doing first of all, live theater was very big, and
Mhm.
a lot of times movie and television stars, what they would do is they would find a usually a light comedy, a play, and they would travel around the country in the play, and they would perform it in, Chicago, Detroit, that kind of thing, do a couple of weeks at each one. And it was a great way for especially TV stars to stay busy when they were waiting for their series to, start shooting again. And so George was in a show called Barefoot in the Park, which is written by Neil Simon. Very funny play, actually.
Mhm.
And they were doing Barefoot in the Park at a theater in Chicago called Drury Lane, which I think is still there. And Larry played George was the star. He had the Robert Redford role, if you've ever seen the movie with Jane Fonda.
Mhm.
And Larry was he was the delivery man. There are a couple of recurring characters throughout the play, and my father was in the play also, and he played the telephone repairman. So that's how
Okay.
all three of these men. Oh, nice! It's somebody says it's still there. Great. Drury Lane Theater, I'm talking about. But so my dad was. All three of those guys were in the show together, and that's how they all met. And I was 2 years old at that time,
Oh
so I
my
had nothing
gosh.
to do with the play.
Wow.
I love it. That's amazing. I just love George Hamilton. That's just amazing.
Well,
You grew up in
he's
the
a very
business.
nice man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it was very funny also because there were surreal moments, where Larry and I would be meeting with George at his very, very beautiful apartment in Los Angeles, and and then we'd be chatting about a movie that we're writing for him, and then the phone would ring, and he'd say, "Hold on a second." He'd pick it up, and then he'd go, "Hang on, you guys, it's Liza."
Oh,
Or
We're gonna
it's
be here for a
Elizabeth.
minute.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't so much that. It was. I mean, just the fact that he's taking calls from Liza Minnelli and Elizabeth Taylor while we're in the room is kind of mind blowing.
well,
A lot
he's
of
so
That's
fun.
handsome.
crazy.
I'm sure every woman was calling him.
Well, he was very he. It was sometimes we didn't go out with him in public very often, but because sometimes because people still recognized him, and
Oh, yeah.
there were a couple of awkward situations. There was one where we were at we were at a restaurant in Burbank, California, and it wasn't a very high flying restaurant. It was rather casual, but this waiter came over and started asking George if he remembers taking a young woman to her prom in like 1955 or something, and it
Yeah.
was in Cedar Rapids, or you know what I mean. It was just, and
Yeah.
George is just very politely nodding, like, well, that's very possible. I spent some time there. I don't think he had any idea what this guy was talking about, but he is such a class act, you know, that when the waiter left us, the waiter, we could tell, felt like $1 million. He was, I mean, because George was never rude to anybody or like, will you get out of here? We're trying to, you know, he listened to the guy's story, and and that was great for me to see. It's like, this is how you treat people, you know?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. He seems like he
Very
would
much
just
so.
be the most genuine, down to earth person you could ever meet.
Well,
I would think.
you can't
Well,
be George Hamilton without being a little larger than life, but
yeah.
but I mean, but he's a very nice man. You know, I got to tell you this. This sounds like name dropping, and I apologize. My father passed away in 2017, and my father lived many years in Los Angeles. It's one of the reasons why I'm here. I came here to go to school, but you know, part of the reason I stayed, part of the reason I knew Los Angeles, because I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. Part of the reason I've been there is because I came down to visit my dad. Anyway, so my father had lived in LA for many years, and so even though he didn't pass away in Los Angeles, I wanted to have an event in Los Angeles so that his friends here could celebrate him. And so, so we had a nice. It was really a party, you know. It was we had a little slideshow and that kind of thing, but basically it was just people sharing memories. And George came, and I thought that was, I thought that was so classy.
Yeah.
And you know, and he spoke a little bit and told some stories, and it was just, he didn't. I mean, you know, I told him about it because I like, hey, you know, we're doing this thing for my dad, but I honestly didn't. I was very happily surprised that he showed up.
Yeah.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, your dad was in several things as well, so. You know,
Yeah,
like you said, you grew up around it.
Well, it's just, do you guys do you know the TV show The Odd Couple?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Neil Simon play. Yes.
Yes. Well, my father was on The Odd Couple 5 times, and his most famous episode was there was an episode where Felix got arrested for scalping opera tickets, and the episode culminates in this courtroom scene where Felix writes on this chalkboard. He says, you know, he was interrogating Oscar, and he says, you know, I think he said, you know, why did you do that? And then the person he was interrogating said, well, I just assumed. And he says, aha, you assume. And when you assume, and he writes the word out, you make an ass of you and me. So that's what. Do you remember that?
I remember the scene because that's my mother. Every time I say I assume, she goes, remember. So,
Yeah.
I grew up watching The Odd Couple, so yes, I do remember that.
Well, my father played the cop who arrests Felix at the beginning, at the
that's awesome,
for scalping the opera tickets. Yeah. I'm so embarrassed about these little splotches of. This is just water, by the way. I don't want you to think I'm.
That's vodka. It's all right. We know how you Hollywood types are, you know. Well, you know, Griffith, you've also, I will let you name drop a little bit because I wanted to know which Super Bowl coach you worked with.
Actually, I worked 4 Super Bowls, 2 here in New Orleans. I didn't work the one here the last time, but I worked the one in 2013. That was the year that Sean Payton and a number of players had gotten banned that year. I don't know if you remember, there was a kind of a big conspiracy about, or I shouldn't think there was a scandal, and so
I'm a Saints fan.
Okay, I didn't do too well this year, but hopefully it'll do better. But yeah, that year actually. So that year's kind of a funny story. I did a commercial for Mini Cooper. And the gig was we were going to get cheerleaders from both teams that were playing in the Super Bowl that year, and they're going to get Mini Coopers, and we were going to drive them all around the French Quarter. And me and this other guy had to race on foot and follow these Mini Coopers while these were riding around, and Sean Payton and a few other coaches were going to say hey. And so there was some miscommunication. And they said, yeah, sorry, we won't be able to get the cheerleaders for the next 3 hours. Well, Lee Nadler, who was the VP of marketing and he says, well, no, we need them now. And somebody's kind of jokingly said, well, they got the Playboy party at the Jack's, across, maybe get a few bunnies from there. So he dragged us over there, and he went and knocked on the door. I need this mini girl. And he got things signed, and then he turned the camera and said, okay, we're going there now, go. And so we're kind of holding the cameras like, is this dude serious? and so of course, on Super Bowl night in the French Quarter, you put some Playboy bunnies in the back of the minute. What do you think is going to happen? Well, people went crazy. And there was one, I wish I had the video I could show you this, but there was this poor old guy in the car driving the Mini Cooper, and these two girls are in the back blowing kisses, and this big group of probably frat guys, they're swarming the car like a pack of coyotes, and they're shaking it, and they're going, let us in, and then the driver's going, there's all these crazy white people. Ah! Oh, that was probably one of my most greatest moments as a live cameraman. I just had so much fun filming that.
That's fantastic.
But Lee had never seen a Mardi Gras parade before, and so this is happening during Mardi Gras.
Boy.
A bunch of parades were going through. So the quarters is stacked like a grid, and the only street you're going to have a parade through is going to be either Decatur, Canal, or North Rampart. The others are all residential. You can't really bring parades there, but you can do it on Decatur. So we're on Decatur. The Mississippi River is right on our left-hand side, and there's all this crazy Mardi Gras stuff going on. And Lee was just, he couldn't believe what he was saying. It was kind of cool to see somebody who I think was the one who he was one surprising most people. He was really just amazed. That was kind of fun to watch that. But yeah, that let's see, Harry Connick Jr. I've worked with him a few times here.
Nice.
The first celebrity so one that comes to mind most recently was Glenn Close. Glenn Close was in one of the parades one year, because I work the parades every year. So I've actually worked 4 parades this year. We didn't have any celebrities this year though, because those mostly go with Bacchus. I didn't work Bacchus, but yeah. Let's see. I also worked with actually I didn't work with, but I got to meet Ron Howard, so I didn't work with him. But
That's awesome.
Nice.
Very cool.
Nicolas Cage used to have a house in the French Quarter, so I would see him at the neighbor CC's Coffee. It was kind of cool. Actually, I was jogging. I used to jog around Governor Nichols to Dauphine to Decatur, and one time I was jogging. There's this Lamborghini kind of font. Oh, and it was Nicolas Cage. He just waved. So
hey,
yeah, right. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie had a house on Governor Nichols, so I would see them from time to time. But yeah, those were probably my most memorable encounters with celebrities. But not, I don't have the extensive exposure that Emmett's had, because he's in Los Angeles. But yeah, that's
really cool though. I love New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a wild, crazy place. A lot of people call New Orleans, it's basically it's like an insane asylum with the walls kicked out.
Sounds like my kind of place.
That's the description.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
January. Oh, sorry. It was like late January when we were there. In 2020, we were going on a cruise, and we were just amazed at like the party. And then when we woke up and walked the street again, everyone's like having to spray the sidewalk off, and we're like, cool.
Yeah, not to take away attention from the film, but yeah, the French Quarter has a very, what I really liked about it is you have a lot of different types of people. You have street performers, you have fortune tellers, you have musicians, famous chefs. There's also a very vibrant Catholic culture in the French Quarter. And you have a very big portion of the LGBT community. You also have a lot of the street kids who perform. So it's a very, very eclectic blend, and they all get along very well. Like, to illustrate the point, there was a Catholic nun coming out of the Ursuline convent, an older, I say probably in her 70s, and she slipped and fell on one knee, and she couldn't get up. It was evident she had injured herself. And there were some street performers over here, some street kids over there. There was a gay bar right there, and all these people just swooped in, helped her up, and brought her back. It was really, really touching. That that's kind of, anyway.
Everybody looks out for each other.
They do. Yeah. They really do.
Yeah, it's a great place.
In a kind of a scary way, by the way.
Yeah. Everybody's watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Great place.
Yeah.
We loved it.
Well, I want to get from both of you. I know you both have some paranormal stories, and so let's get into that a little bit too. So
I guess
whoever wants to go first.
I will have Emma go first.
Well, this involves my father, and it also involves what will hopefully be the next movie that I make. Because I told Larry, my writing partner, this story that my father had told me about. He was working in he was doing a play somewhere, some small town, in the Midwest, and they didn't have the money to put him up in a hotel. And the play that they were doing had a bed on the stage. It was part of this. It was part of the set. And so they said, "All right, well, you just sleep in the theater. We'll all be out of the theater by 10 o'clock or so every night. So you just sleep there, and we'll wash your sheets, that kind of thing." And so my dad was sleeping in this theater. Well, it became very apparent to him after a couple of nights that it was haunted, because he would hear whisperings and he would hear, shouting, and it's one of those, like, is this memories of plays from the past? And I don't know if you know this, there's actually something that it's kind of a tradition, but it's also a safety thing, which is there's something called the ghost light that you're not supposed to ever leave the theater completely dark. When you're going to turn off all the overhead lights and everything in the theater, you have to position the ghost light in the center of the stage, and it's just a pole with usually it's just a bare bulb on rollers, the whole thing. You just put the ghost light in and you turn it on, and then I believe the tradition is that it scares away. It either scares away the ghosts who wish to play harm, or maybe it attracts good spirits. I think it's more of the scaring away the bad ones. But basically, most theaters are expected to be haunted in some way, especially older ones. So he was sleeping in this theater, and my father at that time was a drinker. He stopped drinking in 1972, but at that time he was a pretty heavy drinker, and so he would go out every night after doing the show, and he would get really drunk, so that when he got back to the theater, he would throw open the door and he would say, "Okay, I'm coming in there," and basically tell all the ghosts to go to hell. But I told Larry that story, and then we started working on a horror comedy about a haunted theater. and it's called Final Curtain, and it's a very funny, wonderful movie, and we were actually close to making a deal to shoot it in Milwaukee, but that fell through. So we're looking for a new place to shoot the movie. But if you know of any creepy old theaters that wouldn't mind having
Point Pleasant.
Where is that? Where
West
is Point
Virginia.
Pleasant? Okay.
Where they shot the Mothman prophecies.
Yep.
Okay.
We have the
Nice.
Kentucky
Hey,
Theater.
Hey, you can come down. I'll show you around.
Okay. I went to a
was gonna
wonderful film festival in Charlestown, West Virginia,
Mhm.
and actually that's where I met my producer Hayato Mitsuishi. So long story, but anyway,
Very
I'm sorry,
cool.
sir. You were saying.
I was going to say recommend the Knoxville Theater here in East Tennessee. So
That is
It
a
has-
nice theater. I've been there. That is a super creepy in a good way. theater.
Yes.
The
It has some
Kentucky Theater
stories.
is really creepy.
Yeah.
You know, I was a paramedic at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, and we would be in there before and after, and it would be creepy when they would turn all the lights and everything down. And the organ will play itself. You know, it's one of the pictures that still has the old organ, and they bring it up to, I guess, stage
on an elevator.
when the guy plays it, and he's played it since like the beginning of time, and when you're in there at night, you know he's not there because it's not raised up. He's not practicing because he'll do like baseball riffs and he'll do rock and roll riffs when he's practicing. It's funny as hell. But when he's not there, we're there just cleaning up, making sure I'm looking for all the dead bodies and stuff in the bathrooms and undersea. Paramedic, you'd be surprised. And after a Lady Gaga concert, oh Jesus! But anyhow. I met her, but funny story. But anyhow, yeah, it's very spooky. So yeah, I agree. So that was my claim to fame. I almost got to give Lady Gaga a B12 shot in the ass as a paramedic. That was
Nice.
I love Lady Gaga. I listen to her almost every day.
But some guy decided to try and get into the concert from the roof and fell off the roof, and I got called away. So,
Of course.
but at any rate, so you can put that story in there about the paramedic haunting the theater because he didn't get to see Lady Gaga's ass. So,
Oh, that's funny.
it's a true story though. Griffith, you said you had some ghost stories too.
Yeah. Emmett, you want me to tell a paranormal story having to do with the film? You want me to just tell, or anyone will do?
Yes, this will be my first time hearing it. I would love to hear it. That sounds great. Unless you're going to reveal a big plot point, but
no.
okay.
No, on my way up to Wisconsin, I stayed with my cousin in Carbondale, Illinois, and I was I'd been to Wisconsin. I'd only flown there, never driven there. So I drove with all my gear up from New Orleans to Kewaskum, and so I stayed with my cousin, and then I happened to. As I was driving up there, the roads had iced that day, and so I couldn't drive. And so it was like about 10:30 at night, and so I had to pull off on a side road. And I'm like, man, I don't want to stay out here in the cold. What am I gonna do? And then there happened to be a small chapel out on near, I guess, probably about 40, 50 yards off the road. So I just kind of pulled in toward the small chapel. And then I saw a sign that said, Our Lady of the Snows. And so I pulled in, and it happened to be this big sort of Catholic run hotel. And I just happened to stop there as the roads iced. And when I literally parked my car, this really bad this really bad storm came in. And a bunch of trees fell on the road, and it was really bad. And so I literally had just gotten off the road in time.
This was in September. This was in like
Yeah.
1st of October. Wow.
Yeah. It wasn't.
I
It
didn't even
wasn't.
know this.
So it was at night, and so usually the roads there don't ice at that time of year. So that was kind of unusual. I was told that was unusual. They will get rain, but yeah, I just happened to get there because if I had gotten there later, I would have been stuck. So thankfully, I was able to leave the next day and get to the shoot.
Isn't New Orleans like the most haunted city in America?
It is.
Or-
Yeah,
Yeah.
New Orleans has about 8 million corpses buried in
Oh,
all the
God.
cemeteries. So if there was a zombie apocalypse, we'd be in a world of hurt.
Luckily, they used to tie people's shoes together so
Mhm.
they would just trip if they got out of their grave.
Yeah.
So that would give you a little extra time.
Yeah. My favorite story about historical New Orleans is how they used to fight against pandemics. 'Cause, they used to have typhoid and yellow fever happen quite a bit. So what they used to do, they would do these air purifying rituals where all the townspeople would line up where the ships are, and they would just fire grape shot and their muskets into the sky because I guess that kills the virus. So if you have a disease, you shoot it. Yeah.
America.
That's a very American way of
fighting the virus. Yeah, it was very. I remember hearing that from one of the ghost tour people, and I just thought,
Did anybody suggest that a couple years ago? That might have worked.
Yeah.
It might have worked. Yeah, would have been a surprise. A number of paranormal things happened when I filmed Ligeia and Natchez. That was kind of that was a crazy production. We filmed at a house that was built the same year Louisiana became a state in 1812, and the architect was hired by a man who was actually represented by Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr for an attempted murder case. So they actually worked together to get this man off so he could escape down to Natchez, and he built his house and stayed there. And they have a standing spiral staircase. It's one of the only two that exists in North America. I think the other one's in New Mexico, but basically it's a spiral staircase that's self-balancing. There's nothing holding it up. And we filmed a number of films in this house, and we filmed a scene there where the actress who played Ligeia says, "I don't mind if you wish to stay. That is, if you want to." And the script, the young man hesitates, and then he closes the door, and then he goes back and he decides to stay. Well, when we filmed it 3 times in a row, the wind slammed the door shut as soon as she said it. And the actor told me, he said, "Griffith, I thought I was supposed to close. I didn't have somebody slam the door." I said, "I didn't have somebody slam. There's nobody out there."
They're like, "No, you stay in."
Yeah.
And that house is also right by the Mississippi River, so there was a lot of wind that picks up there, and you can hear the wind howling. And one of the makeup girls, Shani, she always had different color hair almost every day. We were upstairs, and we could hear the wind. And the doors of these houses they're really big. They're very solid doors, and when they open, they open very loudly. And so Shane was standing right in front of the door, and she's like, "I think this house is haunted. I really don't like to be here." And she said that the wind blew really loud, made this big "whoa," and it blew the door wide open. And Shani just went, "Ah!" And her hair's like flying in the wind, and she runs. It was just really
Shani, no, you're gonna make him mad.
But she was actually a real trooper. She a lot of the makeup that you see in the movie was due to her, and so she was really great. But actually, our makeup artist and without a name was pretty incredible, Kim Whitty. She saved the day so many times. I got to throw that out there. She did some. I mean, a lot of the makeup effects you see, or maybe even all of them you see in the film, are due to Kim Whitty. So just didn't mention that. But yeah, that's a few paranormal stories there that I could throw out.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
There's so
And
many stories in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
supposedly vampires there. So
Yeah, that
Yes,
was
I met a couple of vampires when I was there.
yeah,
Oh,
that
wow.
was really popular in the 90s when the Anne Rice novels were really taken off. And that we actually had a pretty vibrant vampire cult sort of thing happening in inner city French Quarter New Orleans. But that it's kind of, I think people just kind of don't really do much with it now. But it was kind of cool back then. Actually,
They're too busy traveling interdimensionally to answer any of our emails.
I guess, yeah.
Like I said, we were there in 2020 and met a couple of vampires, and they invited us to like this speakeasy that night. And I was like,
Nope,
this
nope,
really feels like
nope.
Blade. I feel like we're going to go and be dinner.
Mm-hmm. You'll
Don't
never
do it.
return. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
most vampires
yeah.
have donors, so they don't have to worry about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
A few of the ones that I know, they have 3 or 4 people that donate, and that's how they do it.
Yeah.
All right. Do you ever see them in the daytime?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Hey,
Okay.
there are a multitude of different kinds of vampires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, typically if
yes. Emotional vampire. I saw What We Do
Yeah.
in the Shadows.
Yep. Very true.
Or is that
Very
an
good
energy
emotional
vampire?
vampire or energy vampire.
Yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
He's excellent at what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Griffith, if you can hook us up on the show with a vampire, I've been trying to get a time traveling vampire, but he'll answer my emails and then he'll be like gone for 6 months and he'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to be back." And he's like, "I'm in 2030." And I'm like,
He's busy.
okay, whatever.
Yeah, I can ask. There's still a few that I know. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be awesome because mine is apparently in like 2050 and maybe an asteroid hit Earth or something and he's gone. I don't know, but
He's
he may just be
busy.
full of crap, but I've been chasing this guy for a year. So.
There was a guy who I'm trying to remember the name of the cult. Well, they wouldn't call it a cult, but name of the group. And he had a pretty decent following for a number of years, but that was back in the early to mid 90s, and I don't think those people most of them aren't around. When I lived in the French Quarter from 2007 to 2011, that was still they were kind of holding on to the curtails of it, but I think now it's I think now with social media and everybody's got a camera, and I think that kind of took the mysticism out of it,
Well, I figure a lot of them anymore are probably a lot more low key and like,
yes, that too.
We're doing our own thing and y'all.
They kind of don't want people to know that that's their lifestyle,
Yeah.
Well, and I think there would be a lot of criticism towards that too, making fun of them and stuff.
Too in a shop, like it was just this hole in the wall shop, and it looked kind of like Gothic stuff, which we love. Our whole house is black and white, skulls, coffins. And we're like, oh, this looks awesome. So we went in and then we got to meet them like in the back. So it was pretty interesting.
Not for me. Sorry, no, I don't. I'm brave, but I don't know that I'm that brave. I'll go running into a burning building, but that I will not do. So
it was pretty cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be a vampire.
There's a ritual. Emmett,
Bring
do you
it
got
on.
any more stories? Do you got any more
Well,
stories?
Yes. It's kind of first of all, I have a lot of stories about my father because my father was possibly the greatest storyteller I've ever known. I videotaped him telling stories. Toward the end of his life, I literally would show up with a camera and I would say, "Hey, tell the one about when you had dinner with so and so," and he would just be off and running. And so this is a story that he told me that think is kind of fascinating because my grandfather, my mother's father, was known to be psychic, and he was a painter in California. He was part of an art movement in the 20s and 30s, but he was also psychic, and he was good friends with my father, and they used to go out drinking. Like that's, basically that was a way of life. And so my father and him and my grandfather became very good friends. And at one point, my grandfather called up my father and he said, "I had a dream about you." And I said, "Well, what?" And he says, I don't really know how to explain this, but you're in a hotel room, you're in a bed, and you're in the bed with you is a gorilla. And he said, "I have no idea what that means. I can't explain it or whatever, but do with that what you will." Well, within a couple of days, my father got a call with an offer to do a play in Las Vegas at the Union Plaza Hotel. And the play was called Too Many for the Bed.
Nice.
So you could, and again, my grandfather was very, very sure that something was going to happen. So that was the way that this manifested in my father's life. I love the paranormal. I wish it would happen to me. I almost feel like
you're wishing too hard. You've just got to chill and let it happen. That's when it happens.
Well, many years ago, I went to, there's a beautiful city north of San Francisco called Mendocino. And not many people hear about Mendocino, but it's on the coast and it's stunning. And if you're interested in seeing Mendocino, there's a movie called Summer of 42 that was made in the 1970s. And that was shot in Mendocino. It's supposed to take place in New England, but they shot it in, California. And anyway, it's a gorgeous place. And I went up there with my brother just for like a couple of nights, and just because we wanted to get out of town. And our motel was across the street from a cemetery. And I don't know if you know much about the history of California, but the northern coast of California is actually quite old. It was settled, I think it was settled, back in the late 1700s. A lot of Russian people came there, and there's a lot of history there. And I said to myself, this is great. I've got this graveyard. It's probably full of people from hundreds of years ago. I'm going to wait till after midnight, and I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to walk around that graveyard and see if anything happens. And nothing. And I was trying to, I was just kind of walking around. I was pretty young. I was probably 25, but I was kind of walking around like I'm open to whatever, come what may. And there were a lot of very interesting gravestones, and it was very creepy there. Very silent. There was no lights in the, it was lit up by starlight, literally. And nothing, I felt nothing. If anything, and this is probably my imagination, I imagine that the ghosts were actually sitting there like this. Like, oh God.
This guy.
Another wannabe, forget it, and they're like, nobody say anything to him, just maybe he'll go away.
Hey, we're just going to screw with him. Y'all just nothing.
Because I was like,
that's funny you say that. One of the guys we interviewed from Taps, they went in the night before the haunted house and set up all their audio equipment and everything, and they just let it roll the night before. And as soon as they were done talking and they were like, all right, we're out of here for the night, or the day, I guess, there was a voice recorded on a microphone going, "Oh, it's them again. Don't talk." He said it. It was dead quiet.
Yes.
That'll be me in the next life of just like, no, I ain't giving him nothing.
Well, I imagine that ghosts look at somebody like me and they go, "No, he wants it too much. He wants to meet us. I don't want to be an experience."
He doesn't know us. No.
Yes. But there is a fantastic book, and it's called Hell House, and it was written by Richard Matheson, and it is the greatest horror story I've ever read, excuse me. And it was made into a movie in 1972 or 73 with Roddy McDowell.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the movie was called The Legend of Hell House.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to get the opportunity to remake that movie, because the movie was good, but there's a lot in the book that they just didn't have the technology to do in 1973. They, the ghostly effects and if you're, I'm assuming you guys are familiar with ectoplasm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Or teleplasm. It's the substance that mediums form from their bodies during a seance or a trance, which literally makes solid forms, and it sounds creepy as hell, and I'm dying to see it. And I'd love to see it in real life. But that's and they did a little of that very, very rudimentary stuff in The Legend of Hell House, but it's not what we could do now. I mean, now you could, I can only imagine how creepy it could be. So I'm dying to remake that movie. If
That
anyone's
would be
listening.
awesome. Yeah,
That's a good one.
that would be awesome. Yeah.
Probably a lot of CGI.
Oh yeah, but it'd be appropriate CGI. I mean, it'd be in the right. See, the thing is, in the right hands, I think CGI can be fantastic.
Yes.
Getting back to the film done in Point Pleasant, Mothman. I mean, they did a lot of in-camera effects that were very effective and very psychologically disturbing.
Very creepy.
Yeah, so you could also probably find a way to do a lot of the elements of Hell House that way too.
If you're ever down there, check out the Mothman Museum. Go visit Jeff Wamsley, who runs the museum. Has done a lot of work within the Mothman community. Excellent guy. The people that run the Mothman Museum are fantastic. Come in September, check out the Mothman Festival.
Oh wow.
I'm a Mothman freak, so I've got to.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
I would love to see a remake of that to make it even creepier, because whenever I first saw that hotel scene of
him just
Richard
talking on the
Gere,
phone, yeah,
I'm like, oh god, I don't like it.
I
love it, but I don't like it.
It's just a guy talking on the phone.
He knows the chapstick is in his hand.
Oh, it says he goes chapstick. Yeah.
It's the voice, or just the in your shoe.
No, in your shoe, under the bed. Yeah, that was I remember seeing that scene in the movie, and a lot of people screamed. It was great. I'm sure the director was proud.
I remember watching it for the first time because my as I'm back at my childhood home, our neighbor across the way was the one who actually they lived right next door to us, and he knew that I loved all things Mothman and cryptids and everything. So one day he calls over and he's like, well, come next door real quick. I got something for you. And he gave me his copy of the Mothman Prophecies, which had like the coolest cover. It wasn't like it wasn't like a traditional copy that's got like the movie cover. This was completely different, and I fell down an absolute rabbit hole. After I read that, he let me keep it, and then there is the books by Jeff Wamsley that are him. It was called Behind the Red Eyes, I believe, was his second one.
Yeah.
Where he goes around and does the interviews with people who had experiences. And then because there are a lot of really old, really creepy graveyards right there in Point Pleasant that me and my ex had went out to. And I was like, we're going to go find where the TNT area is. We're going to go find it. So we had went around town, and it was before, because the Mothman Museum is in a much bigger space now. It was in a much smaller one. And they sent us down the road to the diner, which is actually featured in the film. And the lady who runs it was like, well, yeah, you just go and you turn right at the Christmas tree farm. And it blew my mind because, you know, it's right on the border there with Ohio. My stepdad is from Ohio. And that was the Christmas tree farm we used to go to every year to get our Christmas tree. And I was like, it's been right there. It's been right there. So literally you turn at the Christmas tree farm, just keep following it down. And it's just this creepy ass road that every so often it's got little turn-ins, but there are like there are markers. So we eventually found the one that had an X on it, and we went following out there and found all 3 bunkers. The first one you can go into, at least you could at the time. This was probably like 2014, 2015 that we went. The door is open on that one. Creepy as shit. Then the second one, it is uncovered, but you can't open the door. And then the third one is completely vine covered. I don't think anybody's tried to get into that one. It was a crazy experience, because he just keeps on going, walking down the path. And I'm like, don't you leave me here. I don't know what else is out here. But what was even crazier is if you don't turn at the Christmas tree farm and you just keep going out down that main road of Point Pleasant, they have a little it was called like the Farm and Heritage Museum, which was just a lot of local things to Point Pleasant. Of like, they had old buildings there that they had basically put in like a little circle for you to go look around. It was a completely free thing to go to. But they had like a little area off to the side that was like a little barn where they had animals. And we went walking over there. These animals were scared shitless.
Oh.
And they were all like up against the side of the building, and we're like, what is going on? Well, you can see out part of the barn to where there is a pasture that was grown up. So I was looking, and it was just a real like overcast day in the middle of fall, and I walk around the back, and you can see the crows circling, just a whole bunch of them. And I was like, we should leave. We should leave. And he's like, what? And I was like, we should just leave. Just have a real feeling. Because there was like 2 cars there when we showed up. And I look back, because we still had a good portion to walk around. Both cars were gone. Didn't hear anybody get in there and leave. And we make it partially a way around. And I'm still saying we should get out of here. And there was a big building that was just completely dedicated to a local guy who was a big game hunter. And all of a sudden, we come out of that building. There's a lady that is slowly following around the circle just behind us. And I'm like, give me the keys. Give me the keys right now. We're leaving. I was like, there's no vehicle anywhere for her. Where did she come from? I was like, she knows we knows things. She knows that we know things. We're leaving right now.
It's a zombie.
That was a nutty experience, but I highly suggest it. Creepy as shit, but I highly suggest it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if either of you two ever considered doing a cryptid movie,
What is the meaning of the word cryptid? I hear that a lot these days.
it's basically anything that doesn't fit into the normal outside things. Basically, yeah, I'll leave it at Bigfoot, Mothman. There's
Loch Ness
tons of
Monster.
them. Loch Ness Monster. Yeah.
Okay.
I may have done. Lygia may have fallen into that category because the main actress, the first scene that you see her, she's lying in a glass coffin and she wakes up in it. And she's pursued by a serpent mime, who's a mime with scales like a serpent. So I guess that might count, maybe.
But in any of those kind of like folktale things per se,
Yeah, that's
like
a good word for it.
like the chupacabra,
Loch Ness Monster.
like every state's got like a handful of them or so, but like Bigfoot's the main one.
Yeah.
We have the dog man. We have the
Wood
little
booger.
green man. Yeah.
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 I have to think about that.
Where can we see your all's movie and when?
Well, first of all, if you happen to be near Muskogee, Oklahoma, we are screening in the Bare Bones Film Festival. And if you haven't heard of Bare Bones, you've got to find out about Bare Bones because it's so much fun. I've screened there 5 times over the years, and I've been to it 4 times. It's a wonderful festival. We're screening on March 28th at 8 p.m. So it's a Friday night, and then after that's as far as I know, that's our last festival appearance, and then we're going to release it to streaming soon after that. So I'm working out the details even as we speak. Because
Do we know
believe me,
yet where it'll be on streaming?
Well, this URL, that right now is where you go to see the trailer, and as soon as we get a release, this URL is going to take you to wherever you can see the movie. We're gonna have a list of places. I'd love to get some live screenings, in-person screenings, but we definitely want to get it onto a platform like Tubi or whatever we can get. It's a fun movie. It's one of those things. It's funny. There's a lot of pressure, when you make a movie. They always say, know your audience, know the audience for your film. You need to know who's going to watch your film. And I'll be honest, we wrote the movie because we wanted to see it. So I guess we're the audience, but I don't know how that translates. But for example, Griffith and I went to a screening of it in Baton Rouge in December. And sitting in front of me, there was a woman and her son who was about 12 years old. And so I was watching them very carefully. I was sitting behind them, so I was trying not to stare too hard, but I just wanted to see, like, how are they taking the movie? And I thought the boy was kind of fidgety and everything. But his mother told me later, she said, oh, she said he loved it. She said he was completely in it and following everything, and she enjoyed it. And so there have been a bunch of screenings with similar positive feedback. So
And with some movies, you never know. You never know. Your target audience might be who you least expect.
You know, I wonder. Well, what really attracted me to the script and the story was the kid joining the cult, and I have a lot of friends of mine who they have kids in grade school and high school now, and their biggest worry is, who is my kid associating with? What group are they going around with? So I really felt like this movie tapped into that anxiety that a lot of parents feel in a very powerful way. So I think that may, in some ways, determine the audience, because I think a lot of parents can identify with the main character and be like, man, geez, if something like that happened to my kid, that's kind of every parent's fear, that our kid gets involved with the wrong group, and they, obviously we take it to a little bit of an extreme, yeah. But I think the parental concern is very prevalent today.
Anymore, you can. I mean, even if you think it's an extreme anymore, you can't ever be sure.
I just found out there was a vegan cult that was wanting to kill police officers yesterday.
Wow, vegan cult.
Who knew vegans were angry?
I know.
Well, then there are a medley of other vegan cults too, but with as much as I have delved into the topic, there you can't ever be sure. I was watching a thing on Facebook, and it was people who had come out of cults, people talking about their experience in cults. The people thought that they were getting into an art club because they were artists. Oh, guess what? It was a cult.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the isolation that a lot of people are feeling online. We don't really go into that too much in a movie, but isolation is a prevalent problem today, especially among the youth. And so I think that also is a big pull to belong to something greater than yourself. And what dark roads can that lead to? So
and with kids, there's a big thing too about them being involved in extracurriculars and different things to keep them busy, but they've got to know what's okay and what's not.
And I think one thing I thought the film, I don't think it may not have been intentional by Larry, the writer, but one theme that I thought was really powerful was, a lot of parents don't realize when they have kids, you have a certain window of time where that kid is soaking up everything you say and do like a sponge. And then once they hit 12 or 13, you're basically outside and they're not looking at you at all. So
until they hit over 18 again, even if later than that.
But what happens with the father, when Calvin, when he and Calvin get together, you can kind of tell there's already a disconnect. And so for a lot of parents, I think they just kind of think, well, my kids, I'll spend time with them later. I'm busy. Well, there's going to come a point where they're going to be too busy for you. And if you don't instill that influence now, you're gonna lose that opportunity.
Yeah, cats in the cradle.
One thing I've told people when they ask about the film is I've said, well, in a way there are two films, because for the father, it's a horror movie. His son disappears and no one is going to help him, and no one wants to tell him anything, and he has to go find out for himself, and he finds out a lot of things. And then, but for his son, it's the greatest thing that ever could happen to him, because he suddenly has a bunch of friends.
He's got a girlfriend.
There's a very pretty girl who clearly likes him. There's freedom and no rules, and and he's taken seriously by everybody. Nobody's
Like
treating him like a
he's
baby.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for him, it's fantastic. And anyway, so I hope we didn't shoot too widely, but I kind of feel like there really are two stories, and
Mhm.
I think there's something in it for both groups.
Mhm.
Oh, because
That's one of the
that
reasons.
makes me think a lot of myself at that age too. Of like, you're trying very hard to be understood by your parents, but they just don't. So
Yeah.
you're just like you said, you're soaking up everything to a point, and then you're like, well, they don't get me. They're not listening, so I'm just gonna go do whatever. And it's not until you hit over like 18 to 20 that you're like, yeah, they were probably kind of right.
Well, I used to be a volunteer for an after school program, and it was called the Virginia Avenue Project, and it was really fun, and it was basically bringing theater to a bunch of kids who didn't have a lot of resources or exposure to it. Anyway, there was this, you could join the program as young as 6 years old. And so one of the youngest kids in it, she must have been 6 or 7. She's a little tiny thing. And she shows up, and you remember those oversized T-shirts that basically they cover you down to your knees, So this little girl's walking around with this T-shirt with these gigantic letters. And this was only about 10 years ago, this gigantic letters. And it said, "I love Justin." And I looked at her and I said, "Timberlake?"
Bieber.
No, Bieber. I was like, I just realized, like, I don't even know what's in their world. Like, I was 10 years wrong, with this guess.
Yeah, I made a reference to Axl Rose when I was trying to tell them about how famous musicians change from time to time. So
They're like,
in
who?
the 18th century, you had Mozart, Beethoven, and now you have Axl Rose and Sammy Hagar, and they go, who? I'm like,
Ah, oh,
I'm
right.
really old.
Right in the gut. Right in the
Yeah.
gut.
I kind of felt like I needed my senior citizen discount at that point.
Yeah.
At 29, my 16-year-old niece makes me feel that way.
Oh God.
I'm like, let me just get a wheelchair already. Jesus. Just put me in a home.
I've never had kids, but I was a big brother for a while in the 90s. And so when we connected, my little brother was 13 years old. And so I was with him throughout high school, and it was a wonderful, I mean, I'm hoping it was good for him. We're still in touch, by the way. He's now in his 30s. but he would tell me, I learned a couple of things. One of the things I learned was, don't try to talk like a young person.
No.
Just don't. Just don't try to
Wouldn't know
pick
how
up
to.
yeah. The only time you get to try to use their words is when you're quoting something or you're trying to be funny or silly, but don't ever be serious. And the other thing was, don't try to keep up with the music, because it's going to change. And
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Especially
and the
today.
movie stars, the Nickelodeon stars, the Disney Channel stars, like, you'll never. So just, you'll find out.
Like, don't just give up now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard, and that's one of the things. As a paramedic, we had to kind of fit in with our patients. And when I finally got somebody that I looked at, and their birthday was younger than mine, I was like, what? What? So,
that's like in being home, and my niece and nephew will come over every so often. So when I'm getting up to get ready for work, they'll be here, and I'm like, what did you just, Huh? Were those words that just came out of your mouth? Is that the damn kids?
Gaffalon.
We
Yeah.
we actually had oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, Emmett. I really felt, one of the things that was challenging about Without a Name was we had to work with a lot of child actors, and that's not easy. And Emmett really did a great job directing them. They all had a great time. I remember one actress. It was a girl getting her hair fixed, and she was probably maybe 7 or 8 years old, and maybe a little. I'd say, but not.
You
not
talking
much.
about Emma?
I think so.
O'Donnell?
And
I think she's like
10
or 11. But
she might have been. But she goes and she kind of tugs on his sleeve, and he says yes, and she says, Mr. Director, Emmett, sir, it's really late and it's past my bedtime. And so Emmett says, oh, well, I talked to your parents. It's okay. You can stay up as late as you want. Really?
This is the best movie ever.
Right. But there were scenes where we had, close to at least 20 or more kids at one time, and to herd that many kids and make them do what you need to, and then it was cold and it was challenging. But to Emmett's credit, I mean, he got them not just
make sure you have a full snack table.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
There was during the bonfire scene, the secret weapon was I grew up next door to a guy who joined a punk band, and his name is Sam McBride, and the band is called Fang, and their Fang is still around, and Fang is one of the coolest bands you'll ever hear, and you're like, what? I've never heard of Fang. Well, Fang's music has been covered by Green Day, Nirvana, Metallica, Mudhoney, one or two more. It was I mean, like basically they're almost like punk royalty. I mean, as close as you can be not being from England, but and we played a Fang song to get these kids, to go around the campfire and dance basically. And that music was wilder than anything they'd ever heard, and they went crazy. And you can see it in the movie. They were just like but it was
legit, authentic.
Yeah,
they're having a great time.
Yeah,
authentic reactions.
Because it was, and the funny thing is, like, I didn't want to tell them, like, you realize that you're dancing to music created by people in their 50s.
Hey,
no, don't tell them.
Yeah, don't tell them that. But I mean,
let them enjoy.
Yeah, that was the thing, was like this music was, anyway, there's a lot of Fang's music in the movie, and I think that's one of the reasons that scene went so well, is because the music was fun and crazy, and they'd never heard anything like it before, and probably. Anyway, there's a lot to tell them about the music, but that can be, like, for example, the one of the people, my friend who was in the band, actually did 8 years for murder during the late 80s and 90s. So there's lots to tell. But he's doing well now. He's out.
See, kids are weird sometimes too, because you could be like, "Hey, you really like that song, right? Yeah, you know the guy that made that killed a guy. It's cool, right?"
Hey, said that might make them dig into it. Like,
yeah, kids be like, "Oh, that's freaking awesome."
Yeah,
it might.
Well,
might make them want to join a cult.
Well, that's actually one of the things I'm working on, was because that guy, I'm sorry for going too long, but the Sam McBride about a year after we did Without a Name, he called me up and he said, "Hey," he said, "do you know like some kid who's like interested in filmmaking?" And I said, "Oh, well, what's going on?" And he said, "Well, we me and two other ex-convicts, we've been having some really interesting, intense conversations about everything, and I thought it'd be really cool to film them. So I'm renting an RV, and we're going to just drive around Southern California for about 3 days. And I just want somebody along just filming it and recording it and everything." And I said, "I'll do it." And he said, "Are you serious? You want to get into an RV with three ex-convicts?"
Yes.
I said, "Yes." Are you kidding me? So I did it. It was one of the most interesting weekends I've ever spent. I'm still working on that film. I want to get that out there soon, but yeah, it was priceless.
Very cool.
And hopefully there'll be more to tell.
That's
Well,
awesome.
You're going to have to come back and tell us about that.
Yeah.
And if you decide that you want to go film Bigfoot in the woods, Amanda and I know some
Let us
people.
know.
So
Yeah.
When you
Uh,
want to go
yeah.
find Mothman, you know where to find me.
There's
I
a
would love to see
party
that,
for
actually.
George Hamilton. Let me know. I'll be there.
He's now in Palm Beach. So
Okay.
I'm sad because he left Los Angeles a couple of years ago, but he said, according to him, he's in very good health and he's having a time of his life. So
Oh, good.
good.
That's
good.
awesome.
So if anybody wants to get information, withoutanamemovie.com is where they can find it. And I believe your email is on there. I think that's how I got in touch with you. Griffith, you got anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
I just want to say how great an experience it was working on that film. I thought Kewaskum and West Bend, Wisconsin were great places to film. The people were great. I had one of the best steak mac and cheeses I ever had there in Kewaskum. There was a place where I had it was hot chocolate with almond milk with these marshmallows on it. It was one of the best ever. I really I would love to make another film in Wisconsin. I have nothing but good things to say about that state and the people who live there. So
That's
Cool.
awesome.
yeah,
I can't
All
wait
right.
to see it.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, edits.
well, please.
Emmett's recent. I'm sorry, Emmett. Your recent edit of the film was really awesome. I was. He showed me his first take, and for me, it was more like kind of like a high school reunion. Oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember. I missed that guy. And then when I watched it in November, I said, "Emmett, this is a really good movie." He goes, "Well, yeah, it is."
Duh.
We'll have to do like a watch party or something.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
Yeah, that would be
But,
cool.
you know, but the
That
first
would
time I
be-
watched it, it was like a grandfather going, "Oh, isn't he cute?" But then when I actually saw the quote unquote final cut at that time, I was very, I was very proud. Yeah, I was very proud of Emmett and the actors, but I was also very proud. Yeah, I shot that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We should be.
It's got to be a cool feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As I said before, Eric and Hayato really were big unsung heroes that you don't see them in the movie. And well, actually, you see Eric. He's in there.
Oh yeah, he's he's like everywhere in one scene.
Yeah.
He's on all the TV screens in a.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. So you do see Eric, but yeah, both he and Hayato really were they were amazing producers, and the big reason why we were able to pull off what we did was because of their efforts. But yeah, everybody was. It was a wonderful experience overall, especially
And
the
they
kids.
send their regrets. By the way, that neither Hayato nor Eric was able to join us this evening. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Well,
that's okay. We will get them on the next one, and apparently, you better get on George. Amanda's already sending a friend request. So yeah,
I doubt he's on social media.
I should warn you too. Amanda will find you on Facebook and send you a friend request. So
Oh, please do.
she's got that
would be
hidden
great.
talent. She's got.
Amanda, I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to look for me there, I don't have a
I am
Facebook
too.
account, so you can.
I'm on LinkedIn. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll have to.
We'll
find
find you there.
Oh
She
yeah.
will stalk you.
I'm the only Griffith Mehaffey on planet Earth, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Guys, it was a blast. Come back and see us, especially if you're doing some more stuff. And well, heck, just come back when you get some more info about the movie too. So
I'd love to.
We want hear.
Thank
and I
you so
guess I
much.
should have asked your permission to show the movie clip, but I didn't. So
Oh, please do. No,
okay.
please do.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I might edit it in to the post-production part then. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. YouTube might gig me. We'll figure it out. So
No, well,
YouTube's a
I don't
funny
think-
algorithm.
I don't think. First of all, I don't think they will have a problem. I mean, I think it's usually the creators that and ping you, and I mean, people for movie reviews, that kind of thing. That's fair use. There's no, there's no infringement there, so it should be fine.
I was using a friend's song. He's a band here in Knoxville called Got Beer. And I keep getting dinged from a 1950s song that's a blues song that has a similar beat that doesn't even have the same lyrics. So I had to get a letter from him. It was a pain in the butt because they were going to take my account. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to play that song anymore. So they're weird.
So you're in the Memphis area, correct?
Well, East Tennessee, Knoxville.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious if you ever go to the Memphis music scene, or is the band Loud Ass Crackers still playing music?
I hope so.
No idea. No idea. I've got horror stories about Memphis, but they're not for the air. So
yeah, it's a spooky, cool town. Just like the one we got here. Yeah,
it is. It is very cool. So, guys, I appreciate it. Y'all have a great night. Thank you for coming on, and I hope that we can get you back on sometime in the near future.
It was a pleasure.
I hope so.
All right.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, guys. All right. Well, ladies,
That was fantastic.
We ran a little over, but I think we'll be okay. We'll edit it.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
Yes.
I enjoyed it.
Oh my gosh. What great stories. And I can't wait to see the movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I know you're going to be looking for George. So
I love George Hamilton. That was so cool.
Yeah. Well, we've been blessed to meet so many people here on the show. So
We really have.
Cheyenne, are you going to be with us next week?
Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
No, I have to work.
No, you suck. All right. Well,
I'll
we
be
know
here.
Amanda's not
Blame the
leaving
county.
Yeah, well.
Hey,
Stupid citizens.
you are partial to blame for this, so
Yeah, I know.
He regrets it.
I do. Amanda and I've actually had that conversation.
Yeah.
So, Amanda, you're going to enjoy next week's show because I wanted to keep it witchy. We have Melissa Ray McCarty. She is a witch psychic.
Nice.
And I got in touch with the Appalachian Granny Witch, Pat O'Keefe, and she is coming on afterwards. So, because I contacted her and I said, "Hey, I've got one witch." I said, "Can I have another witch?" And I said, "Especially since you're in the South here." So she's like, "Yes, absolutely."
Yes.
So it'll be a great
Oh,
show.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Absolutely. We got to keep the witchiness going. So
Yes.
and Amanda, do we have any updates on anything else or?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair.
Nope.
I'm sorry, Chris. It's not the cops. I'd kick all their asses if I had the option to.
Chris is extremely upset about your schedule. So, everybody, please remember to hit the like, follow, share, and subscribe button. And when I get back to Atlanta, I will be starting the new show up daily. So, that'll be something new. And of course, if you're interested in hearing me play some music, I'm on the Thin Line Rock Station from noon till 2, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think I'm going to get some extended hours here soon. So, be cranking out some rock. Well, a little bit of everything, actually. So if you got a request, shoot along that way. We'll try and get it on. I'm going to find out about Fang. I'm actually going to.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about Fang.
I'm a huge Nirvana fan, so
okay,
I knew that one.
Well, I'm going to ask the program director. Hey, you got any Fang? Can you get some Fang? So.
Can we get a little bit of Fang?
Yeah, he'll probably be like, "What? Who are you? What are you talking about?" So,
Fang. It's Fang.
Ross has got me also. We're going to be doing it's going to be on Fridays. I'm not sure how it's going to be working, but we're going to be teaching people about podcasting and broadcasting. I don't know how I got chose for this gig because I push buttons. So this is plainly a high school production. So. At least my budget is. Oh, Casey, you finally show up. You missed the whole damn show.
Casey.
And we're going to try and get Casey in here to guest some too with interviewing. So,
yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right. Everybody have a great evening. We will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Go.